Welcome to the Sport Exchange with me, John Robbie. Hi guys, welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast where we meet sporting personalities and learn about their lives and their life stories. Today on the Sport Exchange podcast, let's meet a famous rugby player whose late grandfather was once the oldest living Springbok, Pete Milan. Not a lot of people know that. Our guest played in South Africa, then had a fabulous career in England, but he never emulated his granddad. Welcome, Ernst Joubert. Ernst, thanks for coming in. Hi.
John, it's great to be here. Thanks for having us. And looking forward to having a chat to you.
Is it a disappointment you never got a Springbok cap? Because you were close at one stage, particularly when playing for the Lions.
Yeah, definitely disappointed. I don't know how close I was. That's the one thing you'll never really know. But yeah, as a young kid in South Africa, you grow up and you want to play for the Springboks, and that was always a dream. But I had a fairly late start to my career. So by the time I actually kind of peaked, I was already 27, 28 years old. So it was always going to be hard. The new era of players came through, Pierre came through, Kankowski came through. So they started building for a next World Cup, and I just unfortunately missed the gap. But then I also said, if you ever were really good enough, but it was always a dream, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But great memories other than that, though.
I'm sure. When you say you had a late start, why was that, do you think?
I took a gap year after school, went to England, did the whole party scene, and worked in warehouses and played there for a
Cheltenham,
club.
is that
Cheltenham,
right?
that's right. Came back, basically studied at Stellenbosch University, and just kind of started from scratch again. So I studied for 3 years, and I played varsity cups, and then finally Eugene Eloff saw me play against Tikkies for Marties there in Pretoria, and they offered me a contract, and I was dead keen to go because I just finished my degree. I was quite happy to go. I never had a contract leaving school anyhow, so I was always quite happy to do the study route and have a bit of a student life. And then when I went to the Lions, the first week I basically arrived, I tore my groin, and I had operation. They said 10 weeks later you'll be fine. And then 10 weeks came and I couldn't jog. And 10 weeks became 6 months, and another operation, and 6 months became a year, and a year became a year and a half with a third operation.
I'd forgotten. And what did that do to your head?
No, it was crazy because the only person that ever saw me play at the Lions was, except for Skalk Brits, who moved with me, was a good mate of mine, was Eugene Eloff. So you rock up there at the Lions, and people just think, who's this kid who's getting paid for 3 years? And it's just sitting around in the gym. They asked me if I was going to go to the Tour de France because I was just on the cycle the whole time. I couldn't do anything else. And then luckily, after 2 years, I went to France. I said, look, I'm not going to waste your time or my time. I'm going to make a call in the next 2 months. If I don't get better, then let's call it a day. We shake hands. There's no payout, anything. I'll find another career. It wasn't meant to be. And then miraculously, I finally got hold of the late Ron Holder, who used to work with the Springboks and the Lions back in the day with these yellow pages that he put in your shoes.
Tearing up the bits of paper and
weirdest
balance.
office ever. There's a physio bed, a scissor, yellow pages, and some strapping, and that was it. And
was this desperation? Was this last
desperation?
chance?
I saw a lot of people that said, because I heard about this Ron Holder guy, and a lot of people said, no, he taught them, and they know exactly, and they used to put these wedges in my shoes, and I walk out there, and it's just no chance. I'm not getting better. So eventually I got his cell phone number, and I just sent him a desperation text. I said, look, this is me. People say they do the same as you. And he literally, when I went into his office, it was a Friday, and the secretary was sitting there. She said, this must be massive because he's never worked on a Friday. So he came in there, and it was the most painful 10 minutes of my life because you literally just stand there, and he just took his elbows and he just climbed in. He said, stand there. He looked at you, go, this is wrong, this is wrong. He put a wedge in my shoe, but on the opposite side to who everyone else used to do. And he literally, as I put that wedge in, he said, just go for a jog. And I walked out of the office, and I went for a jog, and there was no pain whatsoever. And 2 weeks later, I played for the Lions against the Eastern Province.
And was it, you said it was a groin strain, is that right?
So I had a Gilmore groin, which was a decent operation, but then I think it was just nipping. So at the end of the day, my hips were just not aligned. So we had 2 extra operations that probably wasn't needed out of desperation. And then so there was another a nerve release, and then eventually they operated on the adductor. And then, like I said, the next moment was just, I just walked down. I just knew I was fine. I was 100%. It was a massive win.
What did you feel like after spending all this time and this money on these highfalutin doctors?
No, that's the thing. It's weird because you just think, imagine I got hold of him maybe a year earlier.
Yeah.
But then maybe I was a bit of a late bloomer. Maybe I wasn't right then. Then I would have had a first game and played badly. And because I ended up going to UJ then and played a few games, and I was on my way to club champs when we played. I can't remember where we played. In Joburg somewhere we played, and luckily France came to watch the game the evening, and I had a good game. And he's like, okay, all of a sudden you're in the mix. So I ended up playing against the Bulls in the semi-final that year. So it was a quick transition from being injured to being in the mix. And then the next year just kicked on with Super Rugby. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. I had a very good stint then before I got injured again.
Isn't that the most amazing story? What does that say about sports medicine?
Look, it's hard because, I mean, they tried everything. And the physios, you go to them and they say your hips are aligned. And so for someone else, Ronaldo might have been... No, not helpful at all. But for me, it just worked. And it's also, I mean, you all know, you played, rugby is 80% in the mind. And I just knew, I just had trust in this person. And the first time he fixed me, even when I went to Saracens, so the football teams used to fly him over. So he used to go there, work with Spurs, work with, I think, Manchester. And then I just used to go, I've injured my ankle, I struggled to walk. I go to him, put a wedge in, the next time I can run. It's just maybe 20% mind. But it helped me a lot, and it saved me a lot of injury time.
The decision to force it and say, look, if this is not going to work. Tell us about that. What were your plans there? You'd committed yourself to a professional rugby career. You had something to fall back on, but now you're basically staring retirement, injury in the face. Tell us about what your thought process was.
I think I was just fed up. I didn't really sit and go, okay, I spoke to family members and like, what can I've got a management accounting degree, which is decent BCom, and where do I go from here? Should I go and do honors? Should I go and do SEMA? It's probably on the cards. Do articles somewhere, even though you're fairly older than the rest of the guys. But I made a call that in 2 months' time, I'm going to call it a day. So luckily, before I put too much effort into the thought process of what am I going to do, luckily 2 weeks later, I was fine. But I spoke to a lot of people, management consulting, what can I do? I mean, I'm not the type of person that's going to sit in an office and make books balance. It'll be hard for me. So I always knew I wanted to work with people, and it kind of steered me to where I am now. But I'm just glad I did a degree, because at the end of the day, that degree, which I kind of just parked on the shelf, was the reason why I could go and play in England. Because back in 2009, the law was you either had to play Springbok or you needed a degree, because they wanted to bring some skilled rugby players into the country. So a few of us actually got in with our degrees, and the law changed a year after, which was a massive part of my life. The Saracens time was spent at Saracens. If it wasn't for a degree, I probably would have finished my career in South Africa.
Isn't that fascinating? And we'll talk about that again, particularly when we look at advice for youngsters. The fact that you are so close to the abyss, did that change your outlook in rugby and perhaps in life?
I think so. I mean, like I said, the tough thing was that it's all right if you're injured when people have seen you play, and they kind of nurture you, and look, we got to get him, especially if you're in the star on the team.
Yeah.
Then the physios, I mean, you've got 3 physios next to your bed and they work in. But if you rock up there and you're a student, I used to drive to Rosebank to go and see the biokineticist, and because you basically did all your training by yourself, and that probably taught you, a bit self-respect and discipline to crack on. So I think it taught me a lot of discipline. I kind of just took it in my stride, because I don't try and overthink things too much. But as a rugby player, as a person who chooses rugby because it's a team sport, to find yourself working every day by yourself, it's not ideal, but you probably did a bit of soul searching as well. And
is there a lesson there? Because I've picked up this in a number of the interviews we've done, where people have had a setback and they're out of that family, out of that team environment. Do you think teams do enough to keep their assets inside, or by definition has sport got to be so focused that if you're not in the side, tough, get back, get right?
No, I think it's changed. I think it depends on the pedigree of the player as well. Yeah. Let's not lie to each other here. If you're at a decent club and you're the star player, they'll get you back. I can see that it's sometimes harder for a person that hasn't played a lot of games to find their way back. And you can just see a person, just basically, some guys will really try and get into the vibe, and some guys will just crawl into the show.
And some guys will go off the rails, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Did you ever go off the rails?
No, my parents always taught me I always had these guilt feelings. So I wasn't a guy that got a lot of hidings, but it was like, you really disappointed us. And that's the worst thing you could say to me. So even though I was loose at times and I enjoyed Joburg a lot, there was times where I just realized you wake up on a Saturday or Sunday morning like, this is not you. Come on, sort yourself out. And then Monday you're back in the gym and you work hard and you try and park it. But I believe in a balance, so work hard, play hard. I always try to work hard, and I enjoy a few beers with my mates, but all in moderation. And as long as you can wake up the next morning and didn't have 20 missed calls on your phone for stuff you've done, then you're right. So that probably taught me a bit as well. That definitely taught me, because I mean, if you're injured and no one keeps an eye on you, you can go out every night and just throw it away. But I had good friends around me at the Lions we were all dead keen to make this thing work.
Skulk was a great mate. Skulk Brits, wasn't he?
Yeah, yes. I mean, he was best man at my wedding. So we had a very tight road together, because I moved to Stellenbosch at the age of 16. So Skulk was a year younger than me. We had school together. So in my final year, grade 12, he was grade 11. We played first team together. And then I went to England. So I came back and we went to Stellenbosch together, went to Wilgenhof Res together, hostel. First year together, played all our rugby together, and then basically played for Western Province Vodacom together. He went on to crack onto the Currie Cup. I got injured, and then the next moment the Lions both offered us both a contract. Both went to Johannesburg, lived together there, played there. He came back to Western Province, and then eventually we moved to Saracens together. So
isn't that amazing, eh? Tell us, people perhaps don't realize what a legend he is. And I know we're talking about you, Ernst, but in Saracens and in England, he is an absolute legend.
I reckon he was fortunate enough to become a Springbok, and hopefully he's back in the mix again at the ripe old age of 37. But if he never had that few caps in the beginning, I reckon he could have had 100 caps for England easily, because they loved him there, and rightfully so. He was magnificent for Saracens. He was, Joel Berger once joked, just before we played our first Premiership final in 2009-10 season, we all had a chance to speak around the table and like, what does this mean to us? And Joel Berger said, the nice thing with this team, there's no stars. We haven't got any stars in this team except for Skulk Brits. That was it. But that was kind of a bit of a joke, because all of us were fairly no name. I mean, Steve Borthwick was England captain, but he's always a hard craft. Solid. And so we had just guys that just did the hard work, and then Skulk had basically he had this leeway just to do the magic that he can. Because he could. I mean, he's a special person. At Marty's, when Kirky wanted him to play centre, the many times people told him, Skulk, you got to play centre, got to play. And luckily he stuck to the hooker, because he was fantastic there. And he basically he's rewritten the way a hooker should play. No one looks now at a heavy scrumming hooker anymore. Everyone says, can he mix, can he link, and that's vital. You can see all the hookers nowadays. I mean, look at Mark, he's fantastic.
What was his role in supporting you? Because, I mean, I'm just trying to think what it must have been like. As you say, no-name brand comes up, reputation, the coach says, no one sees you play, you're injured for a year, and there's him now playing, etc. What sort of support did he give you through those tough times? I
mean, he's a very, I mean, as friends go, he's very concerning, and he listens, and he's so the fact that we lived together made it easy, and probably also because I saw the success that a friend of mine who's played in every team that I've played in, and he actually made it. That kind of motivated me as well, to see, look,
if he can do it, I
definitely can do it as well. But he's also a very laid-back individual. They always call me the head boy, because I was always the one that's stressed. And he's this guy, he'll rock up at the airport and we'll fly to France, and he hasn't got a visa. And somehow he's on the flight and he always gets there. So I said, there's so much to take out of it as well, because he's so laid-back and always works out. And I'm always a stressor from 2 weeks. I'm at the airport with my passport. So it was probably a good compliment to each other. But the fact that the two of us lived together made it easier, because it also kept me in the loop, because he was playing with these new friends of his, and I haven't played with these guys. So I always stayed in the loop with the guys, stayed there to the point where they actually trusted me, to the point where eventually when I played, I was actually quite decently into the group.
Tell us about the Lions, because I remember You were very nearly a good side, if I can put it that way, at one time. Tell us your memories.
It was amazing. Like I said, obviously the first year and a half was tough. And then we started, I'll never forget, so France, Ludica moved on in 2006 and Eugene Elof and Leon Bosso took over. And for the Currie Cup, I'll never forget that first round of the Currie Cup. It was proper hardcore. So we used to do 2-3 hour sessions a day. We used to scrum, and then when the scrum machine didn't go forward 20 centimeters, we said, okay, we start from scratch. We're going to do 100 scrums. We've already done 30. We start from the beginning. So it was proper hard. And then we lost a few games in the beginning because we were a brand new team. And I remember Lofi said one day, he said, I think we just lost against Western Province at Newlands. And Lofi said after that, he said, we won't lose a game again. So we went through the second round of the Currie Cup and we beat everyone. And that whole season just turned. And that was special because we put in the hard work. And then eventually, as soon as we started winning, they tapered down and managed us a bit better. But we were all young guys that kind of went through the studying route. And we had to work so hard to become professional that we took nothing for granted. We trained at Joburg Stadium, but not inside, at the top there. It was yellow, it was hot, but the guys were so happy to be there. And if you look at the team that actually played together that time, so you look at Heinke van der Merwe, had a successful career in Ireland and at Stade Francais. Brian Mujati, he had a fantastic career at Northampton. Kobus Grobler had a fantastic career at La Rochelle. Anton van Zyl, Stade Francais, went to and also at Western Province when he came back. You look at my career turned out well. Willem Alberts. You look at Jane Vermaak, Andre Pretorius, Topies de Gransie, Jacques Fourie. So if you put all those names down, you reckon we could have kept this team together for 5 years. We could have actually been at a point where you also had that way where the Bulls had that 5 successful games where they won everything. But unfortunately, I think the big turning point was 2007 when we lost in the Currie Cup final against the Cheetahs. It was close. We lost, I think, 20 points to 18. We were in the lead 18 points to 8 or something. And Willem de Waal was just on fire that day and they scored in the last minute and kicked it over. I think after that, the squad that was very happy wasn't that happy anymore. There were guys that wasn't feeling the love, not really in the mix.
What is that like? That difference between, and because bear in mind, I never played in the professional era. We were just so delighted to be there. It was ridiculous playing in front of a big crowd. Give us more on the difference. How close is the difference between a squad that's united and a squad that's got those cracks starting to develop? Think back.
It's very close because it also depends on. If the core of the team is happy, then normally it functions. But if, let's say, one of the players or two of the players fall out of favor with the coach, then it affects everyone. That's how small this is. Especially I was captain. I was very good friends with the core. I'm living with these guys. All of a sudden, they're not in the mix anymore. So now you go to the coach and he feels he's got the right not to choose them. You feel, but they've done nothing wrong. And then the cracks start showing. And they always used to say, if you want to know if a squad is really happy, speak to the guys that's not playing every Saturday. Because it's very easy to be happy when you're the 15 on the field. But the guys that's not getting back, if they're happy, then you know you're doing something right. Because that's where the cancer can easily spread.
I always found that you can't fool the players. And if the players know that a player is in who shouldn't be, or a player's out who should be in the team, and if the coach is not sensitive to that, that can kill team spirit immediately.
Absolutely. So that's back to your question, it's on a knife edge. From happy to... And a lot of the guys then left after 2007. Look, they were going to leave anyhow, but the squad... And then the big change came. So Bossie moved on, and then Lofi eventually moved on, and Jake came in for a little while, and then... At that time, so that the next year and a half for me was quite tough. I also had, I played in the Currie Cup final, played against the Reds Super Rugby the next year, tore my labrum in my shoulder. I was out for 5 months, came back in the Currie Cup, played about 6 games, felt my wrist is really sore, but I just pushed through at the end, went for a scan, had a hand operation, another 5 months. So that was, and then... Sorry, I'm interrupting now because... Obviously, you had an exceptionally high injury toll.
And with the greatest respect, your nose has seen a few buses in its day. How is the body now? At the end of a rugby career, have you got scars?
No, look, I still play. So we've got this, not league, but a bunch of guys, office workers who between 1 and 2 in the afternoons play touch rugby just for an hour, have a shower, go back to the office. And it's quite full on for an hour non-stop. So I'm still fine. I've always had sensitive ankles, but that'll happen after day 3 of running anyhow. The thing that probably pushed me towards my retirement, except for my ripe old age back then, was I had a lot of neck injuries. So I had 3.
Can't risk that when you got family.
I had 3 bulging discs to the point where my arms got weak. And as soon as your neck gets injured, your confidence goes. And then you can blow wherever you want. You're not the player you used to be. And I only unfortunately realized it afterwards.
But overall, you're in good shape.
I'm fine.
Do the unions or does rugby look after retiring players at all? Because I know American football, they get forgotten. The minute they finish, they are forgotten, and so many they end up in all sorts of problems. Does rugby do anything for you after?
I think it's changed a lot. I think at a point where it turned professional, this is it now. You're a rugby player, and it's an 8-hour job because that's what professionals do. But the people didn't realize it's not an 8-hour job. It's a physical job you're doing, and you're only doing it if you're lucky for 10 years of your life.
Very lucky.
And so all the focus was on the player for this 10 years. And then guys realized, look, there's guys that get injured and they've got nothing. So I don't really know how the South African market has changed towards that because I've been out of it. But I would like to think the way the under-19s are pushed to study nowadays. And because, if you look at your under-19 competitions in the Currie Cup, it became ridiculous where you signed 35 players to take part in the under-19 Currie Cup, where if you're lucky, 3 guys will probably go through and play Springbok. So rather get these guys to have bursaries and study and at least get something.
Varsity Cup,
fantastic. We didn't even have that. That's the way I actually got basically found. And what I also say is, if you study, actually, you buy time for your rugby career. Because if you go, I'm on a 90, I'm going to throw everything at this rugby. And then after 2 years, all of a sudden, there's nothing happening for you. Then now you get panicky and I'm going to go work for my dad, if you're that fortunate. Or wherever you're going to go to find money. Where if you actually go to the Varsity Cup, you've got 4 years, you're going to mature, you might be a late bloomer. All of a sudden, you get that contract and you've got a degree and you've missed nothing out. And you're actually a better player then. Because you diversify a bit with other things. Everything is not just in this one basket. So I would like to think that the people has changed a lot.
Trouble is, though, Ernst, you're 19. You've dreamt of being a player.
That's true.
And somebody is telling you must think about the future, your pension, your retirement, whatever. How do you get, when somebody is living the dream, how do you get young players to take the advice that every old player gives back? How do you do that?
It is so hard because I think my thing was always we grew up in that transition near 95 World Cup professional. So when we started dreaming as kids, we never knew it was going to be professional.
Yeah.
And then so I always kind of knew I wanted this studying thing because I didn't want to finish school, sign a professional contract, and for 15 years you're going to play rugby. And you never had just that where you switch off and just had fun that other kids do. So for me, it was an easy thing to do. But the weird thing with rugby is also the first minute you sign your contract, the person will ask you, what are you going to do after rugby? That was it. I swear. As soon as I started going, so what are you going to do after rugby? And that question pops up quite a lot. And people will go, I'll think about it. And that's where you get people that just not fussed about. But like I told you earlier, I'm a stresser, so I always thought, what's going to do?
So your advice, let's deal with it now, is of course you have to give everything to your sport because professional sport is cruel, and if you're not 100% there, you're not going to make it. You have to give it there, but you've got to have at least a thought. And you would say getting a study or a trade or some sort of a skill or an interest would be important.
I'm a massive fan of a gap year. Because when you're 18 and you walk out of school, you have no idea actually what you want to do. No chance. You've had 6 subjects. You kind of think, some people do. They know, I want to be a doctor. They're going to go for it, fine, 100%. But that year where I actually went overseas, lived by myself, did a bit of soul searching, grew up, kind of knew, okay, I'm quite happy to go into a business thing. So, and be it, mate, you don't have to go overseas. Play your under-19 competition. So give yourself a professional 1 year. I'm going to play hard. I'm going to train 3 times a day or whatever you want to do. And then go, okay, the next year, I'm going to go to university. Because then also with that 1 year that you do, and you do that 3 sessions a day, now all of a sudden you go, is this really for me?
Yeah.
Do I want to be professional? And then you go, okay, maybe I want to. So I'm really going to do the study thing. And I've also thought about what I want to do. I'm going to study this now. Or, you know what, I'm just going to finish this year. I'm going to study. I'm going to go. So this, I don't think a gap year is a bad thing. I think it's a fantastic thing. And it worked wonders for me.
Tell us about Saracens. Did you approach them? Did they approach you?
It was a weird one. It was a bit of both, probably.
Every time I say getting your contract overseas, everyone says it was a weird one.
It was a weird one.
It was weird. It's so different to the way you expect it, but continue.
Yeah, because so obviously I played with Vickers van Heeren, and he's a good friend of mine, and he was at Saracens. So it was Vickers was there, Eddie Jones was the coach. And I was in Joburg, and I knew Saracens.
How old were you now?
This is now 20, just probably before I turned 29.
Right, okay.
And I knew, for some other reason, I knew Saracens were coming to South Africa to train at Stellenbosch University. So as a joke, basically, almost, I phoned Sean Roux. I said, look, I know Saracens is there. I've had a good few games against the Reds back in the day when Eddie was coach. Just throw a line out there. So I'm quite happy to come and play in England. Obvious choice is France because it's easier to get in there. But I thought, it'll be great. And I kind of left it at that. And then next, I'll never forget, I was in the gym there in Randburg, and my phone rang, and it was Brendan Venter. So Brendan phoned me. I thought, not Brendan. Because he used to phone me with these, he used to be the SAPA doctor.
Oh, yes.
So were any claims, and me having claims for a year and a half with my groin. Brendan is phoning me to tell me, with the shoulder or hand operation, I'm not getting paid. So I'm thinking, why is he phoning? So he's like, how are you doing? How's your injury? I'm like, oh, here we go. So I said, no, it's good. He said, no, you've got to go see this doctor in Cape Town. He's very good. He'll have operation in your hand. Okay, perfect. Happy day. So that's not the reason why I called. I said, okay. He said, no, well, I've been appointed Saracens Director of Rugby Head Coach. And I've heard you're quite keen to go overseas. Is it something you want to pursue? I said, amen, happy days. Fantastic. So he contacted me, but it's through actually Sean Roux, who spoke to Eddie. Brendan was there the day as well because he was doing intern work for them. And then he kind of heard through the grapevine and he contacted me, and I flew down and we had a chat. And I said, happy days. And luckily that I had so my contract ended at the Lions in October, and they were quite happy for me to get released. Unfortunately, my last game for the Lions was against the Lions.
Yeah.
And we got 70 points, which was also a weird one when I went to Saracens because
I was there that night in an empty stadium. It was a shot.
Yeah.
That was the lowest the Lions got.
But remember that. So coach get fired the week before.
Yeah.
Jay comes in. We haven't got players. It's all over the place. Now we go and play with a whole new squad. And now because we're leaving, they decided that the guys that's leaving are basically jumping ship. So they're not going to start against the Lions. So they're not even going to play. So we sat down and said, look, we've 6.5 years, we've given everything for this union. I'm 29 years old. I've got to think of my life. I'm fairly old. People ask you at the age of 27 when you're going to retire in South Africa. At 29, you're really pushing it. So I ended up coming off the bench and we lost by 70 points. So when I went to England, they were quite outspoken there, certain individuals, commentators, that what is Saracens doing at the moment? Why are they letting 17 players go and bringing all these South Africans, of whom there's a number 8 who played for the Lions, who lost against the Lions by 70 points, and he couldn't even be in the starting lineup. So, and luckily it turned, because first week we played at Twickenham, we beat London Irish. The second week we played at Wembley, we beat Northampton, I was man of the match. All of a sudden it changed. So it was a...
Did that motivate you? Because it seems to me in both...
No, but unfortunately I only found that out afterwards. I saw the TV clip of this person asking, why are they signing this individual if he lost against a team by 70 points? He couldn't even make the starting lineup. But then he became one of my biggest backers. So
Tell us about the Saracens miracle. Because it seems to me now, every professional team in the world is trying to copy Saracens. What makes them so special?
I just think it was timing. I think we put in a massive amount of work, but the timing was just perfect with the type of players that we got there. Like I said, it was...
But that was deliberate, because you picked players not just on ability, you picked them on their personality as well, didn't you?
Yeah, but I mentioned that first year. Now you got to pick, because obviously they wanted a strong South African flavour. Who do you get out of South Africa? It's not that easy. So the way they got players was just hard-working guys, no stars. They bought into Brendan's philosophy, which at that time the fans hated. But Brendan is a doctor, he's a statistician. So he said, the stats show, that was before he had to release the rugby ball.
Yeah.
The stats show if you carry the ball for more than 3 phases, you'll get turned over. So we literally played 3 phases and either went for drop kick or up and under.
Up and under. I remember the crowds used to boo you.
They hated us, but we won every game. And then we went through a massive dip because we had injury. So the guys couldn't really implement the extra, the deeper squad, couldn't really implement this. And then as soon as, I think it was February, in the middle of the season, the Super Rugby laws changed. But where it was extreme to the point where you have to release. I remember the Lions played against the Chiefs. I think the score was 76-67.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like basketball.
Then all of a sudden, Brendan said, hold on, you can't compete for the ball anymore. We're not going to kick a ball anymore. So all of a sudden, we went from the team that kicked every ball to running out of our 22. And no one expected it. We played with this middle pod rugby. We hit the teams in the middle, and we just flooded the fringes. And it just opened up, and we scored loads of tries. All of a sudden, we found ourselves playing against Northampton in the semi-final there and beating them, playing against the mighty Leicester then in the final, and losing in the last few minutes. So everything just worked, and everyone bought into the philosophy that it's, look, everybody wants to win. We are competitive, that's why we play rugby. But we're not going to focus on the winning. We're here to make memories. We're going to work hard as a team, but we're going to do great stuff together as a team.
But how do you, I'm fascinated, again, as I say, someone who played amateur or semi-professional, because we got money under the table. On the one hand, it's a professional sport, which is the cruelest profession in the world, because even your teammates are competing with you for another contract. Somebody else can be bought in, etc. How do you get that balance between the healthy competition within a squad, the focus on earning money, and all the wonderful team spirit, touchy-feely stuff that you've I mean, that balance is the key to it all, isn't it?
I think so Brendan came in and he said, look, we're a squad. We're not competing against each other. We're going to rotate. Happy days. So by the end of the season, we'll come and say, okay, when we're playing playoffs, you've played better. We're going to back you. But there was never on the field in those early years where you competed with a teammate because you were in rotation. You were a squad system. We're all going to make each other better. Ernst, you're going to play 3 games and then you're going to have a week off, go away with your family or ever freshen up.
That was quite revolutionary at the time, wasn't it?
It was. And we stayed fresh because I think our squad wasn't massive back then. And like I said, we didn't have stars, but the guys, by the time the playoffs come, we were all fresh because it's very hard if you start your first game in September to look forward to the end of May. It's ridiculously because you literally, if you play in all competitions and all finals, you will play every weekend over Christmas, New Year till the end of May. So they gave us, look, in October, we're going to go as a team to this location for 4 days. So it was always that short little stints. You're looking forward to this, looking forward to this. And it kept the mind fresh. So that's what he did. He said, look, you're never going to get dropped. I'll warn you, and I'll warn you, and literally by the 5th warning, I go, look, you're not good enough, it's not going to work. And that's the way it was. So you played with freedom. There was never this guillotine hanging over your head where you're going to go, if I play badly today. Because there's a lot of coaches that coach like that, but that's not sustainable. If you coach out of fear...
It's a very unusual South African approach, isn't it?
It is.
South African
extremely.
Is the big fist behind you.
Absolutely. So, but like I said, it's... When you play out of fear, it's not a sustainable model. You'll be all right for 1 or 2 years, and then you'll see the cracks start showing, and the whole thing just splits up. Where if the guys are backed and they play well, and because I needed the backing of the coach. I needed confidence. As soon as I felt I'm not getting backing of the coach, I started self-doubt easily. But as soon as I knew the coach backed me, I would.
You play for the coach, don't you?
Absolutely. And then you get self-confidence as well. So,
what were your highlights? What were your highlights of your career at Saracens?
First premiership win. So I think it was a very hard. So bearing in mind as a player myself, I was captain under 21 Western Province, lost against the Cheetahs in the final. 2007 captain So this was last minute loss. 2007, captain in Lions against the Cheetahs, lost in the final last minute. 2008, captain Saracens, lost against Leicester last minute. So finally getting the trophy in 2011 after this massive journey was just fantastic. And then obviously by the time the European Championship came along, I was at the end of my career. I was probably a bit of a bitter old man sitting at the edge, not getting game time.
Well, tell me something. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but your club that you've given so much for, you've loved, you've been part of this revolution, and then suddenly they bring in Billy Vunipola. I mean, how do you feel about that?
It was actually fun because the first season we actually played together. So I was every now and then at 8, and then Billy was. So I was blindside. It was the same with Willem Alberts at the Lions. Between blindside and 8, the two of us actually gelled well together.
What's he like as a guy, Billy?
So laid back, so chilled, great guy. Him and Mako, just so relaxed. But when they're just on that line, it's just different players. It's hard to if I had to compete with Billy, it's impossible because he was fit and he's 130 kgs and he's got skill, he's got everything, and he's quick as well. But like I said, you fight in hindsight. When you reflect on your career, you realize, look, it all happened with my neck stuff. As soon as that, because you were half the player, I used to kind of forget that I was kind of physical. I probably was never the most physical player in the world, and that's probably why the Springbok jersey maybe eluded me as well. But as soon as that your neck goes, you just can't do anything. And it happened every second week. And then you start blaming the coaches because you can't accept the fact that you're not good enough anymore. And then you sit back one day and you go, you know what? I jogged on the field doubting myself. And you can't blame a coach for doubt, because I said I was a confidence player. I needed the coach to really buy into what I do. And then you think, oh, the coach is not backing me. But then you realize, look, I was 35 years old.
You see, you're so much older. As you say, you were a late starter.
Yeah.
I thought you were much younger. I thought you were 5 years younger.
No, when people asked me, I said, why do you retire so young? I said, well, I'm 35. What? So I had a late start. But also, I went to the UK, 29 in South Africa. People expect you the next year to retire. You're 30. You can't play rugby anymore. I got there in the Saracens team and I was average age. And all of a sudden they go, we love the youth, but we need this experience.
Yeah.
And that's why Saracens was also good, because there was a lot of these old guys sitting around there that's seen it all, that's played it. Vivian played over 200 games for Newcastle before coming to Saracens. So we had these experienced guys who've seen it all, and then us kind of middle of the table, and we just had a great blend.
Fantastic. What are you up to now?
So I'm at Stellenbosch Academy of Sport. We've got
which is a world-class facility.
Fantastic facility. And we started this rugby side in the facility, so SAS Rugby. And I had a 5-month international rugby institute academy. So I market it. So it's for boys between the age of 18 and 20. Your typical guy that didn't get a contract, or your late bloomer, who, some boys are just not mature at 18 yet. But with coming here for 5 months and you do a high performance program, and if I say high performance, I really mean it. It's similar to what we got at Saracens. The guys train with GPS, they train, everything is worked out properly to the T. So I hit that. So I find players, I market the program, I do a bit of coaching with Corner Ace and Chris Rousseau. Chris, who's the head of our coaching division, Fly Off Chris. And then I try and get exits for the boys. If I see a guy really develop in the 5 months and he's good enough, then I phone around and see, look, if there's a gap for a guy, be it at a university, at under 19 team. And also I said it's international, so we get a few boys from overseas as well. So I've got a decent network there.
And are you enjoying it?
I'm loving it. Yeah, it's good. It's like I said, it's a fantastic facility. It's close to home. It's what I know. Playing overseas and playing in South Africa, I had a decent network. So it kind of makes sense to hang on to the network. And because I went to Saracens, that's probably one of the big reasons I also went to Saracens, was I knew Remgro bought 50% into Saracens. So I always felt there might be opportunity to get back into South Africa, into working. And because Remgro owned the facility, it was this massive link. And it was actually Edward Griffith who, by the time I was about 32, said, look, he's spoken to Remgro, my final contract. And that was fantastic, actually. He said, my final contract, you're going to play for 1 or 2 more years, and then you're going to get a transition here at Remgro. And they see how it goes, work in different departments.
So they were actually thinking of...
So that was actually Edward's brainchild. He was massive on that, and he pushed that hard. So what we did is, I extended actually 1 more year, and then I came here, I worked in different departments. And we sat down, and this was obviously one of the departments or companies of theirs that I came to work in. And I sat down with Willem van der Vyver and Jacques Hanekom, and we had a blank page to start this rugby thing. I said, what are we going to do? So I said, well, we sat down and Jacques said, let's go for academy. And I said, okay, let's do it international. I'll crack on with it. And I kind of just got, that was the end of the work experience in different departments.
It sounds to me that your whole life has been giving you perfect qualifications to do what you're doing now.
Absolutely. It's an absolute blessing. I mean, it worked out brilliantly. It's small little margins. It's almost like you had to be injured for that long to play at the Lions to leave that time. Because I also thought, in hindsight, I thought the best time probably for me, because I always wanted to finish my career overseas just for a bit of experience and, just see the world again, was probably at the age of 27, 2007, after the Currie Cup final. And I thought that probably would have been a good time for me to go overseas. But then I also think back that it would have been totally different. I would have ended up maybe in France and play for 3 years and be done.
Amazing the way things work out.
Yeah.
Ernst, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. We put all the details up of the SAS Rugby, the academy, etc. And we wish you well in the future.
It's been awesome. Thank you very much.
What a fascinating chat with Ernst Joubert. Never made Springbok, but what a story. Special thanks to Stellenbosch Academy of Sport. Have you seen the facilities here? They are world class. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app and follow us on social media at TSE Advisory to make sure you don't miss out. Thanks for listening. Cheers from John Robbie.